"I don't want any terrorist on my property," were my exact words that fateful day. "Get your things and get out of here before I call immigration." What I didn't know was that Allah had other plans, and that the man I publicly humiliated in front of all the other workers would be precisely the instrument chosen for my salvation. My name is Jake Thompson. I'm 45 years old, and this is the impossible story of how the Muslim I most despised, whom I treated with the greatest cruelty, became the angel Allah sent to break my heart of stone and show me the true meaning of strength, honor, and masculinity. Prepare yourselves, because what happened on that deserted Texas road, under a scorching 117-degree sun, will make you question absolutely everything you think you know about mercy, forgiveness, and the nature of the divine. Before I continue with my story, write in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know what country this testimony of mine is reaching. Because if a deep Texas Islamophobic cowboy, raised to hate Muslims, can become Muslim and find peace in Allah, then miracles truly happen anywhere in this world. And maybe, just maybe, my story can touch someone who is trapped in the same hatred that imprisoned me for 2 decades. I grew up in Amarillo, heart of the Texas Panhandle, where men are measured by the firmness of their handshake, by the word they keep, and by loyalty to family, God, and country, in that sacred order. My grandfather, William Thompson, fought in Normandy in World War II, came back with a purple heart and scars he'd never show. My father, Robert Thompson, served 2 tours in Vietnam, lost 3 fingers on his left hand, and gained nightmares that woke him screaming until the day he died. We were the family that had the American flag raised 365 days a year, lit at night as military honor code dictated. Our farm, Double T Ranch, had been in the family for 4 generations. 2,000 head of Angus, some of the best quarter horses in the state, and a reputation built on hard work and traditional Christian values. On Sundays, we were the first to arrive at First Baptist Church of Amarillo, always sat in the 3rd pew, right side. My mother, Dorothy, had been playing organ for 30 years. I was an altar boy, then young deacon. I knew the Bible cover to cover, especially the parts about defending the faith against infidels. On September 11th, 2001, I was 22 years old and had just inherited the farm after Dad died of lung cancer. Agent Orange from Vietnam finally collected its price. I was in the main barn, preparing cattle feed, when Miguel, one of our Mexican cowboys, came running in screaming about planes and towers. We ran to the main house, turned on the television, and there, watching those towers fall in an infinite loop on CNN, something dark and poisonous was born in my chest. It was a visceral, primitive hatred that I confused with patriotism and Christian duty. The following years only fed that fire. Every news story about the Taliban, every terrorist attack somewhere in the world, every debate about the Ground Zero mosque in New York, everything confirmed what I knew. Islam was the enemy of America, of Christianity, of Western civilization itself. I read books by Robert Spencer, watched lectures by Pamela Geller, shared religion of peace memes with venomous sarcasm on Facebook. In 2016, when Trump talked about the Muslim ban, I was in the front row applauding. In my distorted mind, I was a warrior defending my ancestors' land against an invasion. For 20 years I fed this poison, thinking it was strength, that it was courage, that it was loyalty to American values. I didn't know I was transforming into exactly the kind of man my grandparents fought against in Europe, someone consumed by racial and religious hatred, unable to see humanity in those I considered others. The irony would only hit me years later, when I finally understood that the real enemy was never Islam. It was the hatred in my own heart. Ahmed Hassan arrived at my farm through a temporary work agency in March 2020, right at the beginning of the pandemic. Egyptian, 38 years old, 5'9", tall, broad shoulders of someone who knew hard labor, calloused hands that told stories of an honest life of work. His English was heavily accented but clear. His dark brown eyes always maintained direct contact, something we respected in Texas. He shook hands firmly, arrived before sunrise, never complained about the brutal heat or heavy work. For 6 months, he was simply the best worker I'd ever had. While others needed constant supervision, Ahmed worked with the efficiency of someone who had internal pride in what he did. He fixed fences others said needed complete replacement, tamed a wild horse we were going to sell as unbreakable, organized the tool barn in a way that saved hours of work per week. The other workers, mostly Catholic Mexicans, respected him. El Arabe, they called him, but with admiration, not disdain. I should have realized he was Muslim from the small signs. I never saw him drinking beer on Fridays when the other workers relaxed. During the July 4th barbecue, he politely declined the pork ribs, saying he had dietary restrictions. During breaks, while others smoked or checked phones, he often wandered off, staying quiet, contemplative. But I was too blinded by his excellent work to connect the dots, or maybe my brain simply refused to accept that a Muslim could be so normal, so hard-working, so honorable, until that day in September. It was a Friday, particularly hot even by Texas standards, thermometer reading 106 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade. I had gone to the tool barn looking for a part for the tractor when I heard something that made me stop. It was a chant, melodic in Arabic. I went around the barn and there was Ahmed, on a small colorful rug I'd never seen before, prostrated with his forehead on the ground. He was praying. Something in me exploded like dynamite in a quarry. 20 years of repressed hatred, of anti-Islamic propaganda, of mental associations between that prostration and the images of terrorists I saw on the news. Everything converged in a moment of blind fury. "Get up from there now!" My voice thundered across the yard, making birds take flight from nearby trees. Ahmed slowly completed his prostration, sat on his heels, murmured something more in Arabic, and then stood with a dignity that, in retrospect, was majestic. "Mr. Jake?" he said calmly, rolling up his prayer rug with precise and reverent movements. "Don't Mr. Jake me!" I was out of control. "What the hell do you think you're doing on my property? This is a Christian farm on American soil." The other workers began to gather, drawn by the commotion. Miguel tried to approach to calm the situation, but one look from me made him back away. Ahmed looked at me, and there was something in his eyes that infuriated me even more. It wasn't fear or anger. It was compassion, pity, as if I was the one who needed help. "I was doing my afternoon prayer, sir. It's my religious obligation." His voice remained calm, almost gentle. "Religious obligation?" I spat the words. "Your obligation is to work for me, not to be bowing to Allah on my time, on my land. You have exactly 1 hour to get your things and leave my property." The words came out too easy, too natural, as if I had practiced this moment for years. "And if I see you here after that, I'll call not just the police, but ICE too. Got it, terrorist." The last word came out with so much venom that even some of the Mexican workers, who had no particular love for Muslims, looked uncomfortable. Ahmed nodded slowly, put his prayer rug in a small backpack I'd never noticed before. But before turning to go, he did something that would strike me like lightning months later. He looked directly into my eyes, placed his right hand over his heart, and said first in Arabic, then translated, "May Allah soften your heart and remove the hatred that blinds you. May He show you that Islam is not your enemy, your own anger is." I laughed in his face, an ugly, cruel laugh. "Your Allah has no power here, boy. Never had, never will. This is Christian Texas, land of free men and always will be. Now get out before I get my shotgun." It was an empty threat. I would never shoot an unarmed man, but I wanted him to feel fear, wanted to break that irritating dignity. But Ahmed just slightly bowed his head, as if accepting something I couldn't see, and walked toward the workers' quarters to get his belongings. Miguel approached me after Ahmed was out of sight. "Patron, with all due respect, he was the best worker we had. He didn't cause trouble, helped everyone." "I don't care," I cut him off. "I won't tolerate this religious display on my land. And if anyone else has a problem with that, the door is open." Miguel shook his head sadly and walked away. That night, during dinner, my wife Sarah noticed my agitation. "What happened today? You're tense." I told her about Ahmed, expecting support, validation. Instead, she was quiet for a long moment, then said, "Jake, he was just praying. It's no different from when you say grace before meals." "It's completely different," I exploded. "We pray to the true God, the God of America. They pray into something evil, Sarah, don't you understand?" My oldest son, Michael, 18 at the time, dared to speak. "Dad, Ahmed was always respectful. He even helped me with my math project." "Enough!" I slammed the table, making the dishes jump. "I don't want to hear his name in this house ever again. Subject closed." But it wasn't closed. In the following weeks, I realized how much Ahmed did. Fences started falling. The horse he had tamed became wild again. Disorganized tools made every repair a treasure hunt. I had to hire 2 men to do the work Ahmed did alone. And then came the dreams, or nightmares perhaps. I saw Ahmed prostrated in prayer, But instead of anger, I felt a strange envy of the peace on his face, of the certainty in his movements. I woke up sweating, irritated, blaming even my subconscious for betraying me. How wrong I was. How terribly, tragically wrong I was about absolutely everything. July 14, 2023. A date that will be engraved in my soul until the day Allah calls me back. Highway 287, the stretch between Amarillo and Dumas, one of the most desolate roads in the Texas Panhandle. The dashboard thermometer read 117 degrees Fahrenheit, heat that melts asphalt, that makes mirages dance on the horizon like ghosts. I was returning from a cattle sale in Dumas, driving my 2018 F-150 King Ranch, pride and joy of my fleet. AC on max, George Strait on the radio, mind calculating the profits from the sale. The first sign of trouble was a jolt. Then the engine started misfiring. Decades of experience told me to pull over immediately. I barely made it to the shoulder before the engine died completely. Smoke started coming from under the hood. I turned everything off, got out of the vehicle, and the heat hit me like a Mike Tyson punch. It was like opening the door of an industrial oven. I opened the hood. Rookie mistake. The steam cloud almost burned my face. Alternator belt snapped, but there was more damage. Coolant leaking, possibly warped head gasket. This truck wasn't going anywhere without a tow. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Not a single bar. Tried emergency. Nothing. The nearest gas station was 30 miles in either direction. First hour I kept calm. Drank the water bottle I always kept in the car. Warm, but better than nothing. Turned on the phone periodically looking for signal. Nothing. A few cars passed. I tried to wave. Nobody stopped. Texas is huge, and on that road people drive at 80 miles per hour with distant destinations in mind. Second hour. The heat started seriously affecting me. Shirt soaked with sweat. Mouth dry despite the water. I tried to stay in the minimal shade the truck provided, but the relentless Texas sun found every inch of exposed skin. More cars passed. One slowed down, gave me hope, then accelerated again. I started feeling the first signs of heat stroke, dizziness, nausea. Third hour. Real desperation began to set in. My water ran out. Swollen tongue, cracking lips, vision starting to darken at the edges. For the first time in years, I genuinely prayed, God, please, send someone, anyone. Don't let me die here like a dog in the desert. Another dozen cars passed. Civilization at 70 miles per hour, ignoring me at 0. It was almost 4 p.m. when I saw the silver Corolla slowing down. A 2015, maybe 2016, clean but clearly used, one of those worker cars from someone who values every dollar earned. It pulled over about 20 yards behind my truck. The door opened, and my heart almost stopped. Not from relief, but from absolute shock. Ahmed Hassan was walking toward me, carrying a cooler and wearing the same calm expression he had the day I fired him. For a moment, time froze. Pride and shame fought a mortal battle in my chest. Part of me wanted to crawl back to the truck, prefer to die of heat stroke than accept help from him. Another part, the part that was literally dying, didn't care about anything except surviving. Ahmed approached, his steps measured, and when he spoke, his voice had no trace of revenge or satisfaction. "Mr. Jake, is that really you? My God, you're not well." "Ahmed." My voice came out as a croak, throat so dry it hurt to speak. He immediately opened the cooler, took out a bottle of ice-cold water, ice cold, and handed it to me. "Drink slowly, small sips first," he instructed, with the authority of someone who knew the dangers of dehydration. The water was the sweetest thing I'd ever tasted, nectar of the gods, liquid life going down my parched throat. While I drank, Ahmed went to his car and came back with a towel he wet with more cold water. "Put it on your neck. It'll help lower your body temperature." His hands guided me to the shade of his car, helped me sit in the passenger seat with the AC turned on maximum. He gave me more water, then dates. Sweet fruits I'd never eaten before, but that somehow were exactly what my body needed. "Why?" I managed to ask after a few minutes, when my mind began to clear. "Why are you helping me? After what I did, what I said?" Ahmed looked at me for a long moment, and there was a depth in his eyes I'd never noticed before, or never allowed myself to notice. "Mr. Jake, in Islam, we have a saying from our Prophet, peace be upon him. He said that whoever doesn't have mercy on people, Allah won't have mercy on him. And the Quran tells us that saving a life is like saving all of humanity. But I humiliated you." My voice broke, shame finally overcoming pride. "I called you Terrible things. I threatened you. I threw you out like you were nothing. Ahmed nodded slowly. Yes, you did all that, and it hurt, Mr. Jake. I won't lie and say it didn't hurt. But my religion teaches me that forgiveness is more powerful than revenge, that mercy is stronger than hatred. He pulled a small box from the glove compartment. More food. Halal sandwiches his wife had prepared for his trip, fresh fruit, even some sweets. Eat, he insisted. You need to regain your strength. While I ate, humbly accepting every piece offered, Ahmed checked my truck. He came back shaking his head. It's bad. I'll take you home. Then we can call a tow truck. During the first minutes of the drive, the silence was deafening, broken only by the hum of the air conditioning. Ahmed drove carefully, occasionally offering me more water. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Ahmed, I need to understand. Any normal person would have driven right past, would have felt satisfaction seeing me suffer. Why did you stop? He considered the question for a moment. Mr. Jake, do you know the story of Joseph in the Old Testament? I nodded, surprised by the biblical reference. We Muslims also revere Prophet Yusuf, Joseph. When his brothers, who sold him into slavery, came to him in need during the famine, he could have taken revenge. Instead, he forgave them and said, "No blame on you today, Allah will forgive you, and He is the most merciful of the merciful." "But you're not a prophet," I protested weakly. Ahmed smiled, the first time I saw him genuinely smile. "No, I'm not. I'm just a man trying to follow the Prophet's example, trying to be the kind of Muslim that would make my father proud, that would make my daughter want to be like me when she grows up." He paused. "Mr. Jake, you expelled me for being Muslim. My religion obligates me to save you for being human. That's the difference between us." The sun was beginning to set, painting the Texas sky with shades of orange and red that normally would fill me with patriotic pride. But that day, sitting in Ahmed's car, saved by his mercy, the colors seemed different, softer, humbler, as if the universe itself was teaching me a lesson about humility. Ahmed looked at the horizon and then at the dashboard clock. "Mr. Jake, I'm sorry, but I need to stop. It's time for Maghrib prayer, the sunset prayer." He found a safe spot on the shoulder, a small rest area with some picnic tables. "You can wait in the car with the AC, he offered, but something in me, curiosity, guilt, or perhaps the first stirring of something greater, made me say, "No, I'll wait out here." Ahmed looked at me surprised but nodded. He went to the trunk and took out a water bottle and his prayer rug, the same rug that had caused his dismissal. I watched as he performed wudu, the ritual ablution, washing hands, face, arms and feet with precise and reverent movements. There was a gracefulness to it, an intentionality I'd never seen in any Christian ritual. Then he spread his rug, checked the direction with an app on his phone and stood, hands raised to his ears. "Allahu Akbar," he said, and something about the way he pronounced those words, with total surrender, total peace, gave me chills. I watched Ahmed pray, and it was like seeing a man become simultaneously smaller and greater. Smaller because he prostrated completely, forehead on the ground, in total submission. Greater because there was a dignity in that submission I'd never understood. When he bowed, when he prostrated, when he sat, each movement spoke of a connection with something infinitely greater than himself, but a connection that didn't diminish him. It elevated him. When he finished, he remained seated on the rug for a few more moments, hands raised in personal supplication. I could see his lips moving, occasionally a tear glistening on his cheek. Finally he stood up, rolled up his rug, and came back to where I was waiting. "Thank you for waiting," he said simply. "Ahmed," my curiosity overcame my embarrassment, "what were you saying to God at the end when you were talking to him?" Ahmed smiled gently. "I was thanking Allah for putting me in the right place at the right time to help someone He loves." My throat tightened. "But I fired you. I humiliated you. I treated you like—" "Yes," Ahmed interrupted me gently, "and I've prayed for you every day since then." The statement hit me like lightning. "You prayed for me?" "After what I did, every day after every prayer," he confirmed. "I asked Allah to soften your heart, to remove the hatred that was poisoning you, to show you that Muslims are your brothers in humanity, not your enemies." I had to turn away, pretending to look at the sunset, but actually hiding the tears that threatened to fall. This man I had treated with such cruelty had spent months praying for me, not against me, not for my punishment, but for my guidance, for my peace. The 2-hour drive to my farm became the most educational of my life. With Texas passing by the window, mesquites and cotton fields, grain silos and windmills, Ahmed told me his story, and every word was a gentle hammer breaking the walls I had built around my heart. "I was a civil engineer in Cairo," he began, his voice carrying the weight of bittersweet memories. "I worked for the government designing bridges. Good life, stable salary. Then Mariam, my daughter, was diagnosed with a rare heart condition when she was 3 years old. The doctors in Egypt did what they could, but they said she needed specialized surgery, something only a few hospitals in the world could do. One was in Houston. Texas Medical Center," I murmured, knowing the place's reputation. Ahmed nodded. "Exactly. But the cost, Mr. Jake, it was more than I would earn in 3 lifetimes in Egypt. So I did what any father would do. I came to America on a work visa, left my pride at customs, and took any job that paid. I cleaned bathrooms, washed dishes, and eventually found work on farms because it paid better and provided housing." "But you're an engineer," I protested, the injustice of it bothering me despite everything. Ahmed shrugged. "I'm a father first. Titles, ego, professional pride. None of that matters when your child needs you. Every day I worked on your farm, Mr. Jake. Every fence I fixed, every horse I fed, I did it thinking of Mariam. The money I earned from you, specifically those 6 months, paid for the final part of her surgery." The revelation hit me like cold water. "Wait, you're saying the money from my farm saved my daughter's life?" "Yes," Ahmed completed. "Your cruelty in firing me? That was also part of Allah's plan. You see, after you expelled me, I found work at a construction company in Houston. It paid better, was closer to the hospital. Mariam had the surgery 2 months later. She's perfect now, alhamdulillah. She runs, plays, laughs, things the doctors said she could never do." I felt nauseous, not from the heat, but from the realization of how wrong I'd been about everything. "Ahmed, I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything, Mr. Jake, but maybe you'd like to understand what Islam really is. Not what the media says, not what politicians say, but what Allah really teaches us." For the rest of the trip, Ahmed talked about Islam with the same patience he showed when taming horses. He explained Tawheed, the oneness of God. He talked about the prophets, surprising me by revealing that Muslims revere Jesus, Moses, Abraham. We call them Isa, Musa, Ibrahim. They're our prophets too, Mr. Jake. The difference is we don't believe Jesus is God. We believe he was one of God's greatest messengers. But what about violence, terrorism? I asked. Decades of propaganda still fighting in my mind. Ahmed sighed deeply. "Mr. Jake, there are 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. If Islam taught violence, the world would be on fire. The Quran says, whoever kills an innocent person, it's as if he killed all of humanity. Those who commit terrorism in the name of Islam are to us what the KKK is to Christianity, a perversion, a distortion, a betrayal of everything that's sacred." When Ahmed stopped at my farm's entrance, the sun had set completely, and the lights from the main house glowed like a beacon in the Texas darkness. I could see Sarah in the kitchen window, probably worried about my lateness. "Ahmed," I began awkwardly, "you saved my life today. I'd like to compensate you somehow." He shook his head. "You don't need compensation for doing what's right, Mr. Jake," but he hesitated. "If you really want to do something, just learn. Learn about real Islam, not the lies they taught you. That would be payment enough." I entered the house carrying more than just physical exhaustion. Sarah ran to me, concern evident in her eyes. "Jake, what happened? You're sunburned. You're shaking." "The truck broke down on 287, I explained, accepting the glass of cold water she offered. I would have died there, Sarah. 117-degree heat, no water, no cell signal. "My God, how did you get home?" I took a deep breath. "Ahmed brought me. Ahmed Hassan, the worker I fired 3 years ago." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah slowly sat down, processing the information. "The Muslim man, the one you called—" "Yes," my shame was palpable. "That same one. He stopped, gave me water, food, brought me home, saved my life." My son Michael, now 21, had just entered the kitchen. "Wait, Ahmed saved you? After what you did to him?" The accusation in his voice was clear. "Why would he do that?" "Because," my voice was hoarse, "apparently Islam teaches that saving a life is like saving all of humanity. Because he's prayed for me every day since I fired him. Because he's a better man than I ever was." My daughter, Rebecca, 16, came down the stairs drawn by the commotion. Dad, you always taught us about Texas honor, about treating people with respect, about judging a man by his actions. Where was your honor when you expelled a man for praying? Where was your respect? How did you judge his actions? Each question was a knife cutting through years of hypocrisy. I was wrong, I admitted. The words difficult but necessary. I was blinded by hatred, by fear, by ignorance. And today the man I treated as an enemy proved to be more Christian than me, more Texan than me. He showed mercy when I showed cruelty, love where I showed hate. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lying next to Sarah, staring at the ceiling, I saw Ahmed's face when I fired him. That mixture of hurt and pity. I saw him prostrated in prayer on the roadside, in complete peace despite helping someone who had hurt him. At 3 a.m. I did something I hadn't done in years with real sincerity. I knelt beside the bed and prayed. God, I began, but the words seemed inadequate. God, or Allah, or whatever you want to be called. I'm lost. I spent 20 years hating people I didn't even know, fearing a religion I never understood. Today, a Muslim man showed me more Christian love than I've ever shown in my entire life. If you're listening, if you care, help me understand, help me be better, help me. I stopped, realizing what I was about to ask. Help me find the truth wherever it leads. I spent the next 3 weeks looking for Ahmed. I found out through Miguel that he was working for Tex Build Construction in Houston. I drove 4 hours there, waiting in the parking lot like a nervous teenager. When he saw me leaning against my rental truck, the other was still in the shop, his eyes widened in surprise. Mr. Jake, is everything okay? Ahmed, my voice trembled. I need to learn. About Islam, about your God, about how a man can forgive like you forgave, please. He studied me for a long moment, looking for sincerity, I imagine. He must have found it, because he nodded slowly. There's a mosque near here. We can talk there after work if you want. But I shook my head. No, not a mosque. I'm not ready for that yet. But what about my farm? The barn where I fired you? It seems like it should be there. Where everything went wrong needs to be where it starts to get right. Ahmed considered this. Then a small smile appeared. Poetic justice. I like it. Saturday, then. For 3 months, every Saturday, Ahmed drove to my farm. We sat in the same barn where I had exploded with rage seeing him pray. He brought books, not just the Quran, but books about Islamic history, about the prophets, about Muslim contribution to science and mathematics. I discovered that algebra, algorithms, even coffee, all came from the Muslim world. We preserved Greek knowledge when Europe was in the Dark Ages, Ahmed explained. Muslims were the scientists, the doctors, the astronomers. But more than the books, it was our conversations that changed me. Ahmed talked about jihad, not the distorted media version, but the real concept. Jihad means struggle, Mr. Jake. And the greater jihad, what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, called the greater jihad, is not against others. It's against your own ego, your own base desires, your own hatred and fear. So, all these years I was in jihad? I asked one day. Ahmed laughed, a rich, warm sound. In a way, yes, but you were fighting the wrong battle. You were fighting against imaginary Muslims instead of against the real hatred in your heart. We learned about Jesus in Islam, Isa as they call him. My mind was blown to discover that Muslims believe in the virgin birth, in Jesus' miracles, even in his second coming. We just don't believe he died on the cross, or that he is God, Ahmed explained. We believe God elevated him, saved him from that humiliation, because God doesn't abandon his messengers. Sarah started joining us in the 3rd week, Rebecca in the 5th. Even Michael showed up a few times, curious about what was changing his father so dramatically. Because I was changing. I stopped drinking, not because Ahmed asked, but because I wanted clarity. I started being more patient, kinder to the workers. I even started learning basic Arabic phrases, stumbling over pronunciation, while Ahmed patiently corrected. The turning point came on December 15, 2023. We were discussing the nature of God, Tawheed, the absolute oneness of Allah. Ahmed was explaining how shirk, associating partners with God, was the only unforgivable sin if someone died without repenting. It's like spiritual adultery, he said. God is the only one worthy of worship, the only one who can forgive sins, the only one who controls the universe. Something clicked in me at that moment. All my years of Christianity, I always struggled with the Trinity, with the idea of Jesus being God, with the confusion of praying to 3 who are one. But this, one God, Indivisible, unique, all-powerful, made perfect sense. Ahmed, my voice was barely a whisper. I think I believe this. I think I believe in Allah. He looked at me carefully. Mr. Jake, this isn't something to rush. Becoming Muslim, it's for life. It changes everything. Ahmed, I looked around the barn, the place where my hatred had been strongest. Everything needs to change. I need to change. I want to say the Shahada. I want to be Muslim. Tears ran down Ahmed's face. Here? In this barn? Here, I confirmed. Where I expelled a Muslim, I want to become one. Where I showed hatred, I want to embrace love. Where I denied God his true right, I want to affirm his oneness. Ahmed guided me through wudu using water from an outside faucet. Hands 3 times, mouth 3 times, nose 3 times, face 3 times, arms to the elbows, head, ears, feet. Each drop of water seemed to wash away years of hatred and ignorance. Then, standing in the same spot where Ahmed had prayed 3 years before, he taught me the words that would change my eternity. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulu Allah. I testify that there is no God except Allah, and I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. When I pronounced those words, something broke inside me. Not broke bad, but like a dam breaking, and finally letting water flow free. I cried like I hadn't cried since childhood, great sobs that shook my whole body. Ahmed hugged me, also crying, murmuring, Allahu Akbar, repeatedly. Sarah was watching from the barn door. I hadn't realized she was there. She was crying too. Jake, she said softly, I've never seen you look so at peace. And I was. For the first time in 20 years, the hatred that had been my constant companion was gone. In its place was something I never thought I'd feel again, hope, peace, and an encompassing love for all humanity. Today, as I record this testimony, so many things have changed that I barely recognize my old life. Ahmed is not just my brother in Islam, he has become my partner in the farm. We transformed the old barn where everything happened into a small musalla, a prayer space. It's not a full mosque, but it's a place where local Muslims can come pray, where people curious about Islam can learn without judgment. Every Friday, we offer coffee and conversation about Islam, strong Texas coffee with Middle Eastern dates, a combination that perfectly represents my journey. Curious farmers come, students from the nearby university, even some of my old church friends who can't understand my transformation, but can't deny the peace they see in me. Sarah is studying Islam now. She hasn't taken Shahada yet, and I don't pressure her. Ahmed taught me there's no compulsion in religion, but she fasted with me during the last Ramadan, and I saw her crying during Taraweeh when the Imam was reciting. Rebecca has already declared she wants to learn Arabic properly. If I'm going to understand my father's religion, she says, I want to read the Quran in the original. Michael remains skeptical but respectful, and that's enough. Islam has taught me patience. My parents, both still alive in a nursing home in Amarillo, took time to accept. Mom cried when I told her Dad didn't speak to me for 2 months, but when I took him to his medical appointments during his cancer treatment, when he saw me caring for him with more patience and kindness than I ever showed as a Christian, something changed. Last week he said, Jake, I don't understand your new religion, but I understand it's made you a better man. Maybe that's enough. The farm thrives now in ways it never thrived before, not just financially, though having Ahmed's engineering and work ethic as a partner certainly helped, but spiritually. We treat our workers with the justice Islam demands. We give zakat, obligatory charity, from our income. We even started a program where Muslim refugees can come learn American farming while we teach local kids about diversity and tolerance. The man who once expelled a Muslim for praying now prays 5 times a day himself. The man who called Muslims terrorists now explains at town meetings that the real terrorists are those who spread hatred and fear. The man who thought strength meant domination now understands that true strength is in forgiving, in showing mercy, in conquering your own ego. I get hate messages, of course. Old friendships have ended. Some in town call me a traitor. But for every hate message, I get 2 from people saying my story made them rethink their prejudices. For every lost friendship, I've gained 3 new brothers in Islam. For every person who calls me a traitor, there's someone who calls me brave for admitting I was wrong and changing. If you've made it this far in this testimony, let me tell you something. The hatred you carry, whether against Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists, whoever, that hatred is poisoning you, not them. It's making you a prisoner, not them. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "None of you truly believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself." Not Muslim brother. Brother, period. Humanity. If an Islamophobic Texas cowboy raised in hatred, marinated in prejudice, blinded by propaganda, can find the truth and embrace Islam, then wallahi, anyone can change. The question isn't whether Allah will guide you. He guides whom He wills. The question is, are you ready to let your car break down? Are you ready to be vulnerable enough to accept help from those you've despised? Are you ready to admit that maybe, just maybe, everything you thought you knew was wrong? If this testimony touched your heart, if it made you question your own prejudices, if it opened your eyes to the beauty of real Islam, not the media version, but Islam as lived by 1.8 billion peaceful people, then please share it in your groups and social networks. Share on Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, wherever people need to hear that hatred can be defeated, that mercy is stronger than prejudice, that Muslims and non-Muslims can not just coexist, but thrive together. And if you're stuck in your own hatred, if you're carrying the burden of prejudice I carried for 20 years, know this: Allah is already preparing your Ahmed. Someone, somewhere, is praying for you right now, asking God to soften your heart. Someone is preparing to show you mercy you don't deserve, love you haven't earned, forgiveness you can't repay. You just need to let your car break down. Metaphorically, of course, though in my case it was literal. You need to come to the end of yourself, to the end of your pride, to the end of your certainty that you're right and they are wrong. Because I guarantee you, on the other side of that breaking is a peace that surpasses all understanding, a brotherhood that transcends race and nationality, and a purpose that makes every day worth living. My name is Jake Thompson. I was an Islamophobe. I expelled a Muslim from my farm for praying. That same man saved my life, taught me about true Islam, and guided me to the Shahada. Today, I am Muslim, I am Texan, and finally, after 45 years, I am truly free. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be with you all. From a Muslim cowboy in the heart of Texas, remember, true strength is in mercy, and the greatest jihad is conquering your own hatred.